It's a little packed in here. Put a small block Chevy or maybe an LS in it and just have fun. And
I love it. This is an amazing car. And like, you know, those are the classic Chevy hubcaps.
so this is one of those 5.
One of 5. When old farts like me leave the sport, the hobby of old cars, to guys like this, we're in good shape. This is my friend Don Page, probably the second car guy I met in the years I've been in Booth Bay Harbor. So thanks for inviting us over your house, sir.
Yeah, very well.
And I like your t-shirt. Yeah. I'm a gasser guy myself.
Yeah.
Straight for an axle Willys. I love it. This is his shop, and Don has these pumps here. Can I fill up at 33.3 tenths a gallon?
Well, the tank's a little dry right now.
All right, can I come back? I'll come back.
Yeah.
Do I get steak knives if I get a fill up?
Green stamps.
Oh, okay. You guys holding the cameras?
Green stamps.
You don't know this, but you used to get like rewards for filling up at gas stations.
Yeah.
Everybody needs steak knives.
Oh, yeah.
Well, show us what you got in here. So he's got 2 buildings. Some of the cars are his, some are his friends.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. Some are barn finds and some are really nice.
And yeah, I store cars for people.
Oh, I love these old Hot Rod magazines. 1968. I bought this magazine new.
Yeah.
Like I remember buying that at the newsstand.
Yeah.
So I would have been 14 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's start with your car. You have this great Woody.
Yeah.
A great Woody. Man.
That's the wedding cab. A lot of people like to do weddings and take the bride and groom out in Woodies. Woody.
So how long do you own this car?
35, 40 years. Come from Owl's Head Owl's Head auction, and it looks bad no one would bid on it except me.
And have you done any work to it?
Oh, it had a white canvas roof that was all mildew.
Okay.
And so wasn't the side of the car. The oak was all mildew and stuff, and I got some acid and takes all the mildew and stuff out.
And did you repaint it?
Yep, yeah.
So, you know, the thing is, everybody's got a Ford Woody, but there's not many Plymouth Woodies in the world.
I wouldn't be afraid to take that car across the country. It really works good.
So it's a 3-speed, is it overdrive?
No, it's got cruise control.
Wow.
Only what you do is you just pull a lever out and it increases the RPMs.
So Ford had that too.
Yeah.
This is a guy that stores this car here.
It was bought new to drag race in 1961, 62.
2 brothers?
Yeah, Billy Ladder and Fanny Ladder. And now Richard Ladder has inherited the car, and he's still drag racing, like he's drag racing a Camaro now.
So running the family.
Yeah.
So what motor did this come when it was brand new? What was in it?
348.
A 348.
Yeah.
And they drag raced that. They bought it brand new with a 348.
Yeah. Solid lift was 350 horse.
Did they ever drive it on the street?
25,000 miles on it, and it was towed like 7,000 miles. And then they bought a school bus and chuck it in the back of the school bus for several years.
Did they ever let it up with letters and numbers?
No, take hubcaps off it and original paint, original interior.
Is that a bubble top?
Yep.
So a bubble top is a short
Yeah.
roof and a long deck.
Yeah. It originally came with a 3-speed, and they put a 4-speed in it to drag race.
Did they, after they were done with this, did they drag race other cars?
Yeah, they had a 55 Chevy, and the last one was the Camaro.
This is an amazing car, and like, you know, those are the classic Chevy hubcaps. They're just beautiful. So, and then your drag cars over here. I know you want to show us the motor in this thing. You drag race this every weekend in the summertime?
It's like once a month.
Once a month, okay.
Once a month, yeah.
And you build this from the ground up?
No, I bought the body the way it is, and it originally comes through with a small block, and then I bought the Ray Batten motor, and it's got plenty of power.
What is the horsepower, you figure?
650, yeah.
2 4-barrels. This came with a 318 or something?
360, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I got it on the stand over there.
And this is not a street car?
Yes, it is.
Is it really?
Yeah.
You drive it like
Not very often. Yeah. I got the open headers on it, but I got the, the ones that pop onto it.
Oh yeah, okay.
But no.
It's like a show car. I mean, it's beautiful. How long have you drag raced?
Oh, geez, since back in the 70s. But it was one of those things. I didn't go every weekend. I'd go in and get a chance because that Ford I used to drag to the drag strip.
Local people here who spend the summer here, they're car people. They store their cars here in the winter sometimes.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like what you're watching, do me a favor. Go check out the Hagerty Drivers Club. 24/7 roadside assistance with flatbed towing, subscription to our award-winning magazine, and more. Sign up today. Links right down here in the description.
So this is the first car guy I met So you're the second car guy I met.
Yeah.
Like 7 years ago. This is the first car guy I met.
Yeah.
And you can see why this got my attention.
Ford.
That's a beauty. All right, let's start with the lineup here. So are any of these cars yours?
No.
All customer cars.
Yeah.
So we got a big Ford truck, probably what, a 34, 35, something like
32.
that? 32, wow. So a Deuce flatbed. Is it a V8?
No, it's 4. You can't even hear the thing run, and it rides down the road and it don't have a rattle in it.
Must be low mileage. Is it a local truck?
No, I don't think so, but it used to be a fire truck originally, I guess.
A Rocket 88? No, it's a Buick. No, it's an Olds.
Oldsmobile.
So it probably is a Rocket 88. See what this
Yeah,
is.
you like this one.
I will. Oh yeah, Caddy. Whoa.
53 Cadillac with 30,000 miles on it.
30,000.
30,000 miles. You can't even hear the engine running this thing. Big V8, you know, and
So it's a 331 cubic inch. Wow, what a beauty. Is that original paint?
yep.
Man. You know, it's amazing. I mean, this is probably a local car. It's probably one of those summertime cars.
Yeah, I think so.
Maine has a habit of attracting people that bring cars here and only use them for 4 months in the summer. And they keep them for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. There's old Woodies running around north of here near Bar Harbor that the Ford family brought here in the 30s, and they're still running around.
Yeah.
And they get low mileage, and they don't run in the wintertime, so they get salt in the roads, and they store them in buildings in the winter. So Barracuda,
But this is a nice little car. This is a solid car.
340.
318.
Yeah, Barracudas are getting some attention these days.
Yeah, these things are good drag races.
Why would that be?
Light.
Light. Okay.
Yeah. You can put big tires under the back of them, jack them up a little bit.
So we've seen everything here.
Pretty much.
That was easy.
Yeah.
So I moved to Boothbay Harbor thinking that there's no car guys, there's no car people. But there are a lot of guys like Don, like Larry who owns the Shelby, like all these other people we met around Boothbay Harbor, Bob, George, Mark with a C, Mark with a K, Dave, Chris. There's so many car people everywhere, even in a coastal town like this where fishing and boating is the main activity. So Don, thanks for inviting us over here.
Yeah, very good.
And
Come again.
I'll see you at the drag strip in August.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you. So I've bragged about McPherson College for a decade or more, and you've heard me talk about it. McPherson is like, they turn out amazing young people to take over the world that we're leaving behind. Restoring cars, they do amazing work. They learn metal shaping and engine building and painting and upholstery work and car assembly and history. And I met this guy, Philip Reinhardt, when he was a freshman, 18 years old or something like that. And he's graduated a couple of years now, and he's got a restoration business. So, hey man, congratulations, this
Thanks.
is amazing. So when I met him, he said, you know, what I want to do someday is open a restoration shop in my little town of Tennant Harbor, Maine. And son of a gun if he hasn't done that. So whose cars are these?
So this is my employees, that's mine, and then the rest are customers, and the good stuff's inside. And yeah, typically we always have one full restoration going on, and then the rest of the time is occupied with heavy repair, electrical work, brake jobs, clutches, you name it, but all on pre-1980.
The vehicle that got my interest about coming here and visiting Phil is this Rolls Royce back here. I'm not a big Rolls Royce fan, but I think there's a cool story here. So tell me why you have this Rolls Royce. Tell me from the beginning, the guy brought it in.
Well, the guy had been on my wait list for a while, and then when his spot came up, gave him a call, said bring it on down, and he dropped it off, and I got familiar with it, and turns out the thing had an engine fire, and he'd done a lot of work himself on it, trying to get it going again. And so I gave him a call with my list of what it would need to be safe and usable. And
didn't he tell you I only have this much money?
Yeah, and so he said, I don't want to spend more than $2,000 to get it on the road. And I said, that's not possible. And then he said, well, what do you give me for it? I said, I'll give you $350. And so now I own a 1981 Rolls Royce Silver Spirit.
So, I mean, it sounds, oh God, look at this wiring.
Yeah.
Is that out of this car?
He had a parts car that he took the whole wiring harness out of.
Oh my
As you can
God.
see, it's quite a harness. Yeah, so he's like, well, if you need any, if the wiring that's been damaged by the fire, you have a whole harness there. So, all right.
So, I mean, you own it for $350. Obviously, you could scrap it for more than that, but
Yeah, it's aluminum body, so yeah.
wow.
But
So,
I'm
so
playing.
what's your intention for this?
The nice thing about these is that they have a GM Turbo 400 transmission. Put a small block Chevy or maybe an LS in it and just have fun and
I love it.
drive around with a jar of Grey Poupon, so I fulfill the Rolls Royce stereotype.
So the engine was probably not at fault, or was it?
I don't know, but it had a bad engine fire, and so he bought a parts car and basically took everything that melted off the top of the engine off and swapped on pieces from the parts car.
Okay. This is not a current project.
No, I don't have time to work on my stuff that runs.
Yeah.
So maybe
think
next year.
I mean, a small block Chevy would be an amazing.
Just the bare minimum wiring to make it run. The tricky part is the air suspension in the back. As you can see, it's kind of sitting at a nose up attitude. So maybe figure out how to put some coils in there.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But for $350, I mean, or maybe if some Rolls Royce purist is watching this video and he needs it, maybe we'll see.
Okay, wow.
Well, but if it stays here any length of time, I'm going to have some fun with it. I told my mom, I said, I finally made it. I bought a Rolls Royce, so.
So what are you working on here?
This 1936 Ford pickup, and he never really drove it, so he just wants me to go through it and fix a bunch of little things. And so this 1951 M37 Power Wagon, a father and a son team up in Jefferson restored this 20 years ago. And so they ran out of time and space, and so they brought it down here. And so I'm putting the proper bell housing on the civilian engine so the clutch will work.
That would have been in a car?
That would have been in a Dodge civilian truck. And then on the other side, I got a car that just came back from the Great Race. So he's got about, I think 25 cars in his collection. It's a little packed in here.
So these are storage vehicles?
So my cars and cars waiting to be worked on.
Okay.
So this is a customer car that's waiting for a clutch, 48 Pontiac, big straight eight, really nice car. This is a 1931 Rio Royale, and it's a real Rio Royale engine, chassis, running gear. But back in the 90s, a member of the Rio Club built this boat tail speedster body as a replica, as a tribute to a Rio that ran at Indy in 31.
Oh yeah, okay. Cool.
And they finished 9th, I believe. They averaged 94 miles an hour over the course of the race. It's a 358 cubic inch straight eight.
In the 2022 Great Race.
Well,
cool.
That was the stats for Indy.
Oh, okay, okay.
So in Indy, the original car back in 31 averaged 94 miles an hour, finished 9th. But this replica that's built on a real Rio Royale chassis just finished the Great Race.
Oh, isn't that cool? Okay. Well, thank you, Phil.
No problem. We get stuff done.
Yep. So I'll just say goodbye to you, and then these guys are going to do some B-roll quickly around here, right?
If you want me to talk about that, that's a true barn find. So yeah, this is a 1934 Harley Davidson VFD. This is my own bike. And in 1934, they made 1,330 VFDs, and they made 5 VFDS Solos. Harley's more popular bike at the time was the VL. And this is basically a commercial variant of the VL called the VFD. And the only difference between the two bikes was that the VFD had magnesium cast iron pistons, because they figured the commercial models are going to be used at slow speed with less air flowing over the cylinders. The VL had aluminum cylinders. The commercial model had, aluminum pistons. The commercial model had cast iron pistons. With less air flowing over the cylinders, the edge is going to get a lot hotter. The cast iron pistons will expand at the same rate as the cast iron cylinders, so they won't seize. Because aluminum, they hadn't really refined the metallurgy at that time with aluminum pistons to keep the expansion rates down. So early engines with aluminum pistons, when they got hot, they'd seize, especially in motorcycles. So the commercial models all got old school cast iron pistons. And so in 1934, they made 5 VFD Solos, which were non-sidecar bikes. The rest of the VFDs were all sidecar bikes used for commercial purposes. So this is one of those 5.
One of 5
VFD Solos.
1934.
It was bought new in Maine, and I am the 3rd owner. I bought it from Lamont Rollerson of Islesboro Island, which is up in Penobscot Bay. And during World War II, his older brother had a Harley, but he was overseas fighting. His older brother had a knucklehead. So while his older brother was overseas, Lamont, who was 13, 14 at the time, would tear all over Islesboro in his knucklehead. And when his brother came back from the war, he said, no, you got to get your own bike. And so he went to the mainland and found this for sale in Belfast in 1944. And he owned it from 1944 till he passed away in 2016.
And you bought it.
And I got photos of him with his wife on it back in the day, riding all over the country. She loved how it sounded, so she painted music notes on the tailpipe.
Oh, jeez.
And they were heavily involved in the American Motorcycle Association, AMA. So she hand painted an AMA logo on the toolbox. And they rode this all over the place. I bought it from his estate. They called a buddy of mine who owns a motorcycle shop, and they asked if he could sell it for them. And he said, I know a guy who'd want that. And he called me up.
It's like 90 years old, almost coming up on 90 years old.
He got it running, and then when I got it, I rewired it because the wiring was just crumbling. And since it's nearly identical to a VL, which is a very abundant bike, a lot more common than a VFD, there's a lot of parts availability, so I got a whole new wiring harness, adjusted the valves, cleaned the carb, greased it up, got all the lights working, had to do some work with the ignition switches up here, and I've probably put close to 1,000 miles on it in a year. I ride it all over the place.
Can you fire it up for us?
Sure, yeah. All Harleys before 1936, when they introduced the knuckleheads, still had total loss oiling systems. And so there's an oil tank section of your gas tank, which you fill up with oil, and it's metered into the engine through a pump, but after it's done with that, it just drips out onto the primary chain. So
so it lubricates the chain.
Lubricates the primary chain. Yep.
Okay, I got it.
So first off, when it's cold, I set the choke to full and give it 2 kicks to prime it, just to get some fuel into the cylinders. Then I take the choke off, turn on the ignition, retard the spark, set the throttle, and if I'm lucky, first kick. Man. I love all the little things they added. Like they added these reflectors. This was all stuff they probably picked up out of J.C. Whitney.
Right.
But they added these little bullet lights.
Yep.
So I made sure it all still worked and I rewired it.
Oh man,
But it's a sweetheart of a bike. It's more comfortable than my Shovelhead, a bike that's 30 years newer.
So is this unrestored pretty much?
It was repainted in the early 2000s. Before that, it was an original paint bike. Nowadays, we would have not touched it, but back in the early 2000s, they just saw a ratty old bike.
Yep.
So that was normal for the time, but looking back on it now, it's like, oh gosh, I wish they hadn't repainted it.
Right.
Yeah, no, last summer, me and a bunch of my friends who all own old Harleys, I was the oldest one, a 34, my buddy Ron had a 48, my buddy Warren rode my other bike, my 75, and we all rode through downpour rain to go see you.
To my house, an hour south.
The three of us are all so busy, and we picked that day a month earlier, and we said, rain or rain or shine, we're riding on that day.
Yeah.
That morning it started pouring, but this bike rode like a champ.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
You know what? If all McPherson College graduates are this successful, when old farts like me leave the sport, the hobby of old cars, to guys like this, we're in good shape. Happy hunting.